Dragons. No other mythical beast is quite as prevalent across human history and varying cultures as the dragon. But what makes a dragon? And more specifically, why is dragon a type in Pokemon? I mean, think about it. It's weird. I mean, Pokemon has so many dragons. Like, there's Altaria. It's dragon. This month is Dragon Month. An entire month filled with dragon-type Pokemon videos. And next month, it's Fairy Month. Oh, fairies. The little dastardly villains to dragons, like Altaria. But what question is possibly better to ask at the start of our special month than, why is dragon even a type? And what does it take to be dragon type? Normally I save such questions for the Every X-Type Pokemon Explained Not Type series, but dragon and fairy are so unique and deep that we need to separate that into its own video, which is what this is. Especially since there is so much confusion when it comes to what makes a dragon-type Pokemon. So, that's what we're going to figure out today on Gnoggin. You know what's fantastic? Being able to make so many high-quality videos for you all. The amount of time, resources, and passion that our whole team puts into these videos is quite awesome, if I do say so myself. And a big part of being able to do this as often as we do is being able to work with sponsors who are willing to support channels like ours. So, a massive thank you to today's sponsor, Dragon City. What a perfect sponsor for this video. By downloading Dragon City through the link in the description, you can directly support this channel because they're awesome. In Dragon City, you can collect and take care of hundreds of different dragons. There's more than 500 species, and each one of those has multiple stages. Some are cute, some are cool, and then this one's a turkey. What's not to love? You can breed them to make new species, have them generate gold so you can buy food and make them stronger, send them on quests to build new buildings in your city, train them to help them grow and become stronger, and then, of course, have them battle in various PvP modes, like the arena, or even entire leagues. With Facebook Connect, you can easily find your friends to battle and play on multiple devices. And with Auto Battle, they can even fight on their own. There's new content and events every week, meaning there's always something to do. So if you like dragons of any kind, and I do mean of any kind, I mean look at this, there's something for everyone. This is somebody's favorite thing. Then go to the URL on screen or click the link down below and get going on there. It's completely free, iOS and Android, and again, it supports this channel directly. So thanks so much to you, and of course, to Dragon City. Base facts first. The dragon type has been in Pokemon since the beginning, though with only one Pokemon line, Dragonite and fam, meaning that at the time, the developers really wanted dragon to be a rare type, but why? Also, the dragon type has many quirks and characteristics that makes it out to be a rather interesting type, but the main draw for this typing, of course, is the real world's mythos. Thankfully, Game Freak didn't just make up all the dragon information, because dragons are a big idea. I mean, what even are dragons, honestly? Not Pokemon dragons. We got a list of those. I'm talking real-world dragons. What are they? Dragons vary. And when I say vary, I mean they vary a lot. Grammar. However, almost every civilization has something like a dragon found within its myths and legends. And because of that, unfortunately, there isn't one cohesive idea of a dragon. However, there are some theories as to why almost every human culture has a dragon, and that theory points to our intrinsic fear of snakes, birds of prey, and big cats, all of which have common attributes across dragons. However, every culture seems to add or remove some non-key features, which brings up the question of, why do dragons even exist? And that's somewhat simple. The same reasons most fairy tales or myths exist, to teach a lesson. Scary stories of the dark forest are a wonderful deterrent for children, essentially scaring them away from wandering off and getting lost. Dragons, in most myths, lived in dangerous areas like caves, volcanoes, vast deserts, and roaring oceans. Dangerous places for a child to explore unprepared. And the few dragons that don't live in such places were the nice dragons, used as a story device to teach a life lesson that isn't easily learned. such as the Dragon's Gate in Eastern legend, where if a carp works hard enough, it could be rewarded and turned into a dragon, teaching kids that hard work pays off in the long run. And this is where a huge difference in dragons between cultures comes up. How different cultures used them in stories. And even if you only split the world in two, East and West, the differences in dragons is astounding. For the sake of simplicity, let's just look at Far Eastern and European dragons for now. Eastern dragons are rather interesting in their existence. Where other cultures used them to keep children safe, these tales are normally used to teach wisdom. Eastern dragons are commonly benevolent or nice, rarely causing destruction, besides when people really deserved it. But in European mythos, dragons, specifically classic medieval hodgepodge of Greek and Roman dragons, were normally depicted as large quadrupedal lizards with wings, many of which could breathe fire. But this fire was distinct. It wasn't normal fire, it was advanced fire. Dragon's fire. That's right, and this is the first distinction in Pokemon that we found. Way back in Gen 1, there was only one dragon move, and it sucked. It's Dragon Rage, which for several generations just used a slightly modified flamethrower sprite animation. It was that lame, and basically worthless late game too, or competitively. Ugh. But that's not the point, yet. Back to Eastern versus Western dragons, if Pokemon based its dragon type off of just one of these, then half of the dragons that we see in Pokemon would be cut from the dragon roster. So Pokemon's dragon type mustn't be just one type of dragon, it must definitely pull from all cultures. But by not clearly having a defined origin causes mixed feelings? I feel like Pokemon's idea of dragon is both interesting and tame at the same time then. You see, you could just say it's all a mix-mash of all dragons in media, however there are plenty of almost original ideas to be found, and it's these ideas that truly make Pokemon dragon type. We all know that looks don't make the dragon in Pokemon. Just look at Alolan Exeggutor or Altaria, and then look at Charizard and Gyarados, two opposing issues with the dragon type showcased right here, folks. Plus, looking at the more recent dragon Pokemon, we seem to have classical dragons and New Age dragons merging into this odd conglomerate of wacky monsters. I mean, just look at Haxorus. It's just a dinosaur with an axe face. That's like a Batman villain. Axe face. Yet it's dragon type exclusively. Though, looks are rather important. Pokemon is a highly accessible game meant to be played at any age. So long as you can read, of course. This means that Pokemon types need to be easily identified by their looks, and across all cultures. There are a few exceptions to this rule though, like Goomy, it's just a cute little slug, but these are more or less outliers or have very specific reasons for being dragon type despite not looking like a dragon. Like Vibrava. It's a dragonfly. A pun. Not a true representation of a dragon. Pokemon are magical creatures for sure, but why are these creatures stronger? Because statistically, dragon-type Pokemon normally have higher stats than the other types, along with their rather impressive advantages in resistances and weaknesses. And even those have reasons as to why they exist. Dragon has always been seen as one of the more magical types. I mean, dragons are mythical, that's like half magic. Well, not like in Pokemon mythical, I mean like fairy tales, non-real, or real-world magic which is fake. Maybe. You know, like Loch Ness and the Quetzalcoatlus and dragons in our world. You know, they're the square root of -1. They're imaginary. But let's get back on track. I mean, the only reason dragon is weak to dragon is because that essentially says that they are so strong they can only really be hurt by other dragons. And since dragons are reptiles, most often associated with things like fire, ice or cold is also a very effective weapon against them. And fairy is complicated. In most mythos, dragons were actually immune to magic because they are magic incarnate. Especially European dragons, it's almost stated directly. But in fairy tales and some other myths, it was said that dragons were weak to magic or could only be harmed with enchanted magical weapons, often blessed by a fey creature. And as for the reason steel resists dragon, well, it's a stretch, but in most fairy tales, a knight in shining armor would slay the dragon, steel armor being the only way they had a chance. Dragon then resists grass, water, fire, and electric, conveniently the 4 base elements, as remember, in most fantasy, lightning magic is associated with the element of air. And these resistances then all relate to how dragons were immune to the forces of nature, the elemental magics. Plus, in the case of Pokemon, this almost helps instill the idea that dragons are strong, as those are the 4 starters types. So it seems then that dragons really do pull from their mythological roots, masters over the elements and masters of magic. And another huge thing that dragons were known for across all cultures was their ability to manipulate that magic. And this is where I'm just gonna say it, no more beating around the bush. Dragon type is essentially all about raw, arcane energy. In a way, you could explain it as an arcane type, or a sorcery type. That is what makes a dragon Pokemon a dragon Pokemon. Its ability to control this arcane power. Natively, that is. This is also why other Pokemon can learn Dragon-type moves despite not being dragons at all. They are just using a bit of that arcane magic, rather than sprouting a new dragon limb to use Dragon Claw with. Yeah! Dragons are very mystical and magical by default, and have the natural ability to wield such arcane power. However, they don't have the sort of refinement that you would assume magic has. Now, I know this may be a hard concept to grasp, let alone explain, so I've enlisted the help of D&D terminology. Basically, we're looking at the difference between mages and sorcerers, or wisdom charisma casting versus intelligence casting. Dragons know how to manipulate the flow of mana, the arcane energy that's everywhere in the universe, the energy that is present in all life. In terms of Pokemon, you could say that it's the infinity energy that surrounds everything. Where AZ used a machine to manipulate the energy, dragons are able to use their primal control of magic to affect the energy into useful abilities, such as Dragon's Fire. Relating it back to D&D, because it's pretty easy to explain that way, if you were to say that dragons are a sorcerer, you'd be correct. Basically, they have either knowledge or innate magical blood power pumping through them. At least of what I understand of common D&D magic, wizards practice learned magic. They study for years to learn how to manipulate and weave the mana and become masters of it. Sorcerers practice innate magic. They are gifted with an ability to manipulate the weave of mana and sculpt their interactions with it. Both things dragons are known for. However, their magic, or their use of infinity energy, is much more of a raw power, almost willing the magic to do the work by the sheer power or knowledge of manipulation. This is very different from other magics, such as wisdom or charisma-based magic, wherein they manipulate higher powers to help them, or are channeling the power of gods to assist them with their magic, or knowing that special areas in the world have energy that enjoys being turned into fireballs or plant growth. They work with nature's own magic, flowing it along, just helping it do what it wants much quicker. But dragon magic is much more unnatural and controlled, basically forcing the flow of energy to fit into their design. This is why in D&D, Magic Missile is much less of a natural shape for arcane energy to be in, because its design is not by nature, but by the caster. You know that annoying thing where something is super interesting so the media start to pick up on it and then the general populace accepts it as fact? Unfortunately, that's how magic is portrayed in today's media. It's all fictitious, but one set of fiction is almost the base of all other fiction. Sort of like how just all fantasy movies and TV shows are just Lord of the Rings with a twist these days. Game of Thrones is just spicy Lord of the Rings. This is why I'm using D&D as an easy explanation. After all, its methodology is commonly accepted as the way fantasy magic works. But magic isn't the same in every universe, so perhaps you think this is totally wrong. This is where Pokemon comes into play. Let me explain a little bit. Infinity energy is a term coined by the Devon Corporation, though I don't think they invented it like they say they did. They just definitely learned how to harness it. Basically, it's the power of life, or spirit, magic, or mana, whatever you want to call it. But in Pokemon, it's called infinity energy, or maybe aura. And dragons, heck, most Pokemon can harness this power to use their abilities, but that's a topic for another video. Instead, let's look at just dragons here. Dragons are an ancient Pokemon type. Much like rock and water, the type has existed for millions of years. In fact, that's why there are quite a few dinosaur Pokemon that have the dragon typing. Plus, almost all of the lizard-like Fossilmon can learn plenty of dragon-type moves. Dragon is old, and it commands old magic. Magic as old as time, essentially. I mean, Roar of Time is a dragon-type attack. Come on. To figure out what I mean, it's sort of like in evolution. There's always things that are better at something than you. Rock types were good at using the earth. Water, well, they were fish. But dragons, they were able to use this natural field of energy, infinity energy, mana. This is what let them survive. And of course, it being life magic, it's rather strong, which is why their stats are very good, but it's hard to master, and as such, there are very few dragon types. Fun fact that sort of helps my point. Dragon types only evolve through leveling up. The most natural and ancient way of Pokemon evolution. This could be because they are channeling infinity energy regularly with their dragon powers, whereas some Pokemon need special stones filled with power to evolve, or love from their trainer, or to be traded. Dragons also have, on average, much slower XP growth compared to other non-legendary Pokemon, meaning it takes longer for them to level up and evolve. Again, ancient ways. It takes much more experience to advance their power of this arcane force. Plus, there's the fun fact that more Mega Pokemon gain Dragon as a type from Mega Evolving. The keystones used in Mega Evolving are crystallized infinity energy, Pokemon Souls, which relates it again to strengthening the bond between Dragon and infinity energy. It's this usage of infinity energy or mana that grants a Dragon type its true power. Sure, other Pokemon can use this energy, but dragons get stabbed with it. Hence why they are Dragon type. They are masters of mana, arcane adept, incarnations of infinity, super sorcerers, dragons. All synonyms in a way, but what do you think? Are dragons masters of magic, or are they just big lizards that are neato and rare and they can breathe colorful fire? Do you think I'm off my rocker, or is this something that dragon type is? It's arcane magic type. Nonsense. Leave me a comment about your thoughts on what dragon is, and as always, never, ever stop using your noggin. And check out these t-shirts. Boom, ba-boom, boom. Super cool. Get them, pre-order. Yeah, it's Dragon Month, Fairy Month. It's exciting. And as a reminder, be sure to check out Dragon City with the link in the description. Every download helps a ton. Look at these dragons. These are some of my favorites. Man, I love these. So, be sure to check out part 2 of this video, coming soon, where we'll go over every individual Dragon-type Pokemon and explain why they are Dragon-type, their design inspirations, and lore-y things. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. I know you will. Sponsored this half hour by Dragon City.